Hi, I'm Tara Gold. You're joining me at home. At home refers to being at home within oneself, within the world, and at home with spirit. This podcast is raw and it's real. It's sometimes panel style, and it's always shared in a conversational style. Join me here for holistic lifestyle tips that really make a difference with scholars, medical professionals, scientists, cultural creatives, and artists that share through their lens. What all these conversations have in common is that we're all dedicated to empowering and inspiring each other to cultivate inner wisdom and also to share it. Welcome home. We were right home from the start. All right. You can also get closer. You don't have to be afraid of me.
Didn't know how much room you might need.
So first I just want to give context that I get to be here right now on a big couch with the Andrew Duhon trio in Winter Park, Colorado right now, because you're on tour. And you took a little moment out to be willing to speak with me, which I really appreciate. Because one of my greatest joys is talking to people who are creative, who are daring and brave enough to put who they are out into the world, and hope that it can also inspire everyone. You know, hearing backstory or hearing your inner processes helps other people hopefully have the determination, the passion, and the bravery to put it out too. So I like to believe that if we all do that for each other, the world is a better place, ideally. So maybe we could start with everybody. And I want to get everyone's name right, so I put it down here on paper. Andrew Duhon, Miles Weeks, on the end. Jim Kolacek. Did I say your last name right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
It's gonna be woofy with that close, I bet.
Okay, and instead of having a full out bio already created, we decided to get creative about it. And Andrew, maybe you could share some ideas of bio for these guys, and anyone else can chime in, and vice versa. They can share bio around background of who they are.
This ought to be good.
All right, Jim Kolacek, to my right, your left, is a drummer extraordinaire. Born in Chicago, grew up in Alabama, currently residing in Cajun Country, Louisiana. Schooled in music and learned it from Belmont.
11 years old, you said, I remember.
That's where it started, yeah.
Used to teach music. The guy is an encyclopedia of music. And just as a broader brush, I'll say that I'm honored to be in a van with these two guys, specifically because they are so schooled in what they do. They say that you want to be the worst player in your band, and I can confidently say that I have achieved that with these gentlemen. But Jim has played drums with the Andrew Duhon trio for 5 years, and also plays with a Cajun band called Faux Filet, among many others. But you know, a musician through and through. Miles Weeks, born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, son of Rich and Cheryl Weeks.
Fisherman uncle first.
Fisherman and uncle.
Yeah.
Has a degree in his instrument, which is upright bass. So classically trained. So once again, just a musician through and through. You know, but I think what's especially interesting about that is to be classically trained in upright bass, but also love Willie Nelson, you know, more than anything, is kind of a really special, sweet spot, and makes Miles Weeks an incredible bass player and a asset to this here team.
Okay, so I just have to ask, how would the two of you describe Andrew Duhon?
Ooh.
I'm going to give this to you too.
You've had longer, so I think.
Bearded.
Jim, you can take that too and chime in.
Bearded.
Bearded.
Well read. From what I was reading, I do, bro.
All right.
I ain't saying much, but naturally very musical. Just naturally musical, which is kind of the best kind.
different from you guys, you know, not schooled,
You gotta put it over there.
Use that mic.
not schooled, but yeah, in that way, like I am honored to share a stage with consummate musicians, but to be accepted and encouraged by these two guys, you know, that my, you know, natural inclination makes sense to them is pretty special.
Okay, you are very humble, and I love that about you, but I definitely have to say your melodies, your words are pure poetry and so exquisite. And whether you went to school for it or not, you've got it. You've got the gift.
Thanks.
So I just have to say that. Because you're one of the few people, your music is some of the few musical things I want to play when I am needing to relax the most, needing to get just soulful and deeply down and on the couch, you know, just chilling. And again and again and again, there have been so many times where I would be like, what is this song? Who's singing this? And it was you. So I need to tell you, you make big impact, and you've earned your place in this trio.
Thanks for that. So I like the idea that, you know, I'm a songwriter, right? So I'm trying to tell stories, and the melody comes because I decided to write songs and not short stories or poems. I don't know why it's songs, I guess, because that's what affected me. Yeah, it's about, for me, it's about telling the story. So, you know, we're talking about music and songs because that's what we do, but the thing that I'm trying to bring to the table, bring to the stage is a story, you know, the song, the lyric, that is most important to me. Yeah.
So, is there more that you'd like to share about him? Jim, do you want to chime in?
Well, I mean, I had the joy of being Andrew's roommate for 2 years, which you kind of get close to people and understand how they work, but it's an interesting perspective to see the time and kind of dedication that Andrew takes into songwriting and just putting time into writing things down and coming up with ideas. And it's very interesting, and one of the things I really enjoy is nobody sounds like he does. Just, you know, you embrace your sound and your thing, and you do it very well in a way that's very authentic. And I think that authenticity is what really attracts people to the music.
Absolutely.
It's palpable. You can feel it. Like, I'm emotionally invested in those songs. Like, I feel them and they move me in a way that makes me want to communicate that musically from my standpoint. And I feel like I can speak for Miles too, because it comes out in the way that you play, in the way that we sing and support the music, that it does have an authenticity to it that is easily recognizable, you know? And I don't think Andrew keeps that on the surface.
No.
And there's a very protected and deep part of him in there, but he does love very deeply and care very deeply and observes the world in a very unique way.
That said, I really do hope you might say something about that process, because one thing you and I were talking about before, earlier today, I think, was how you don't shy away from things that are painful. You know, you don't shy away from the grief or the hardships of life. In fact, I find that you bring beauty to it, and acceptance maybe even to it. Not just acceptance, but embracing. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So I think the easiest times to write or write a song, but start just to write, are the times that it feels like time itself is, it's like you can feel every braid of the rope moving through your hand. And those times are often heartbreak or pain, but it could be jubilation, it could be joy, it could be love. But I like the adage, a good song has to cost you something. And to me, that's about trying to share an honesty that scares you to admit. When those moments come, or when it feels like just another day, if you can only pick out something about today that feels unique, or maybe painful, or maybe jubilant, but in some way feels like the raw honesty of today, you know, and any one of us could get a phone call right now that would make today go from an off day on tour to a day you remember for the rest of your life, you know? And I'm thankful that no one's phone is ringing, right? It's just, no news is good news. But even on those no news days, there's something, if you sit down and just move the pen across the page, there's something in you that you can dig into and find your own humanity in that might resonate with everyone, if only you can be as honest as possible about it.
So I'm curious because I know you write the songs. Some of them, it sounds like, get written on the road at times through experiences and different things. So some of them have gotten written around everybody in the trio.
I think actually lately, I don't shy away at these days from just writing a song that feels like a journal about the last run or something. You know, I haven't played a couple of them recently. You know, one along the northeast when we went all the way to Maine and back, and it felt like it was a great run and everything, but like we didn't do anything. We saw hotels, stages. You know, we loaded in, loaded out, got to the hotel, got back in the van. We didn't have time really, and we could have, you know, had some sort of like different energy wanderlust that made us say, no, I know we're gonna ruin tomorrow, but let's go to the bar and take it further than we should. You know?
That's what's up.
Yeah, and we probably used to, but I think none of us need it as much these days, at least not in a regular clip to go like burn the night away. I think now we find like I think we feel like we're planting seeds. I think we feel like we're doing work that is worthy out there. And so if all we see is a stage door, a stage, at the stage door, van, hotel, highway, repeat, it's still okay because we believe in this journey, you know?
Jim, you and I had a conversation this morning. We were all making breakfast. It was great. I really enjoyed it. And there was a moment where we talked about how living on the road can sometimes lead to like dysregulation easily for some people, because you're out of your familiar, you're out of your rituals and habits that help you kind of stay maybe grounded or centered in life. And I wonder if you guys could speak to that experience, because sometimes you're in a rhythm of life that's very much your day-to-day norm, and then you're on tour and you're in a totally different reality for a period of time. We want to talk about that, Miles?
Well, I don't feel like I am used to not having a regular thing. Like I don't have a serious ritual.
You don't? You just
No,
let it go
because
with the flow?
I'm home, you know, there's other bands, you know, we both play with. But in all this touring plus those, plus like whatever else you're doing in town or you know, at home. So I feel like it kind of gets regular, but then it's not really.
For you, it's like that.
It is like that, yeah. Yes.
I'm curious for you, Jim. Is it like that for you?
I feel most dysregulated when I get home. Then it's really noticeable how far from my natural routine and my diet, my sleep schedule, everything like that, workout schedule, like those things really give me grounding and center me. And so you just have to be a lot more fluid on the road. Like, okay, man, I've got time to do it. Is it sleep tonight, or do we have time to wake up and eat and do a workout before we have to get on the road? And you just kind of take those little moments to try to balance yourself out. Be it whatever it is. It's a walk or a long shower or something. I think you do need to stay grounded in some capacity.
But you're saying that when you are home, you have other things you do that do help you keep a habits or rituals. That help.
And it's weird. It takes me about 3 days to feel normal.
Can I ask you what some of your habits or rituals are that help you out in life?
I mean, I enjoy working out, staying active. I really, you know, I listen to a lot of music. I spend a lot of time just kind of decompressing in silence too. I love my little house. It's kind of like a little retreat out there, and it does give me a lot of peace. So I'm able to kind of reset.
For some people, it's as simple as, like you said, a walk. For other people, have meditation practices that are like really specific. Other people I know cook, and that's their form of meditation.
Yeah.
Andrew, you're an amazing cook, so it makes me wonder if maybe that's part of your ways.
There's no doubt about the fact that cooking is one of the elements of therapy. I'd say just quieting everything else down, the songwriting is not therapy. It's a passion, and so it's like a friendly ghost sometimes, and other times it's just like it haunts you and it doesn't let you go to sleep, or at least it bugs you if it doesn't haunt you. But the things that quiet the mind, cooking, fishing, those sorts of things, just shut those things down. I'm not repeating that same line in my head or something, and so I love those things. But with the respect to the unpredictability of the road, and then the comforts and routine of home, I like the idea of balance, or trying to find some balance, because my favorite version of the cycle is to be home long enough to miss being on the road, and getting back on the road with an invigorated sense and wanderlust, if you will, and then being out there long enough that you miss home and you go back home and you find a new way to fall in love with it. That doesn't happen if you are home that whole time. You're gonna get that usual routine becomes a rut, I think. And so I think we have an opportunity to find a balance of staying away from one or the other, the motion and the stillness, staying away from the one that you're not doing long enough to remember it, and when you get back to it, appreciate it and really take it in.
What you just said is something I've even heard from people that are work for the airlines, right? So they love to go to these other places and then come back, and they have a life and they have a family. I was married to someone, his mother was in the airlines for 30 years, and she loved it. And it was just for what you're saying, it gives you a different perspective on life, and you feel part of the world in a different way. So is there anything else you could say just about what you might encourage people to consider that brings freedom in your own life and a sense of purpose in the way you're doing your craft and your creative processes in the world? It's a big question.
All right, give me that chopstick. Let's see. Okay, well,
this is for all of you, by the way.
I don't know how I found, or did I try a bunch of things before songwriting became clear? I guess a few, but songwriting became clear to me as my outlet, my thing, my passion. But there's so many other things, outlets, arts, that people may find that become their thing. So if you have a passion, I think that's half the battle. If you have a thing that you must do, it fulfills you, that's the beginning of it. And if not, then the search for that, I think, is about getting out of your comfort zone and trying a lot of stuff, and breaking the habit of monotony as much as possible. The home life, right? I'm imagining someone who doesn't get in a van 2 weeks out of the month, doesn't have that changing scenery constantly, something else to break what is the familiar. What do they do? What if you're responsible? What if for several kids? What if you have a home life that requires you? Hopefully, there's room there still to try something else, try something new, find the things that you feel like you can speak into, and if you can become creative in whatever way that you find works for you, keep doing that as much as possible. Do it when you don't want to do it, but you have time to do it. and be inspired and impressed by how effective you can be, even in the moments that you didn't think you had anything to say. I sit down and I push the pen across the page, or I pick up a guitar, and every time I'm encouraged by it. Doesn't mean I'm like writing a song every time. It just means when you sit down and, give yourself to the creative sphere, or like the muses or whatnot, there's something that they will speak to you. There's something that you will speak out loud that you didn't know was in you. And I think that's incredibly useful in the journey.
What I'm hearing you say is to even get still enough to allow that to happen. Is that work? Is there something in that?
Sure. You certainly need to, for most of what I'm imagining, yes, you need to sit down and do it. To be here, right? To be present in that moment that you have. Close the door and don't let the rest of it in. Turn the email off, put the phone in the other room. However you can leave your mind in that one room for that 1 hour or whatever it might be. Yeah, the stillness of right now. What could we glean?
Jim, can you add to that?
Well, I think you're right on with the stillness. I think all of the answers of life come to you when you're in a still place and you're ready to receive it. I think one of the massive things that I'm learning at this juncture of my life, and it's helped me because I've learned it through this band in many ways, and it's kind of a bit of advice, is you can only sound like you. Embracing, I think I've spent most of my life trying to sound like what other people wanted me to sound like, or sound like this person that I thought was so good, and how does he do that? And then music school reinforces that because it's so incredibly competitive and everybody's so cutthroat and just going after each other. And it's a very weird environment to study something so deeply personal to you, and you lose touch with that. I don't know if you did, but
something so non-competitive.
Yeah,
it's not competitive. It's art.
Exactly. And so a lot of that, as I've matured through it, is learning to find where the authenticity is. And I think a lot of that has to do with my personal journey. Like, the closer I get to being me, the more comfortable I feel doing anything, and especially creating music. I think from the age of a 10-year-old who's picking up guitar to 80, it's like, just remember that no one can do what you're doing. That you sound like you. You have a unique voice. You have a vision. You have emotions and a heart and a passion to do what you need to do, especially as a creative person. So just create, and don't be worried about what other people think, and is it good enough, or am I good enough? Those are all inside of you, and you have to push through them, I think, to get through to the place that you need to be, and that's where you're going to sound the best anyway.
You said that, and it made me think of my 10-year-old son right now. I remember asking him at different times of development, what do you think you want to do when you grow up? One of the first things he said was be a garbage collector. I was so surprised. And then I thought, okay, what do you love about that? And he found the most creative things to say about it. And then I realized it's so true. We can bring that mentality to anything as long as you are true to who you are, right? But you gotta be really true to who you are to enjoy it, or to feel good about it, or to have it work for you. Yeah. Miles, will you add
Well, I kind of barely remember the original question, but
me either. I've moved into this,
but like, you'll meet people after shows that are like, will ask us what we're doing or what you're doing, what your life is like, and they will kind of have this vibe, not this sense. You'll get the sense that they're kind of like grass is greener kind of thing, because then they'll ask them like, well, what do you do? And they'll be like, I'm just and I'm like, man, we need bridges. That's pretty great.
Right.
That's art too. That's killer. I don't know. So unless you have like, some people just have different kind of like thing that they operate in career-wise or whatever, and they can be creative in that, and that's
very important.
awesome.
We
too,
need it. We need it all. Yeah.
That's what that always gets me at shows. I'm like, dude, we couldn't even be here if it weren't for those bridges, bro.
But what about for you? I mean, in terms of anything else you would say besides like go for what calls for you and feels right for you? I mean, is there anything you could say about you personally stepping into trusting your own creativity that may be useful for anyone to hear?
I don't know. I think we're kind of like, give yourself time. I like all that stuff to kind of explore it. However, I think a lot of it's going to come from just like the things that have happened, you haven't experienced within your own life, and
And how you use it.
yeah, situationally, like what's your situation with time and ability to explore these things. You know, I think we're very fortunate. Not everybody has the time to sit down and like self-indulge in a way, art, which is kind of wild. You know.
Yeah, I like the idea. Well, you know, blending. I'm taking Jim's and I'm swirling it into mine to create a better flavor. To say, you know, I'm seeing it through this lens of songwriting, where I sit down and do this thing. But really, it's just about finding your voice,
Right.
In whatever way that happens. It could be in the very cubicle that you are in right now, or wherever it may be.
Yes.
Trusting that whatever your voice is, no one else has that voice, and no one else can speak it. So that voice is how you leave your mark. That voice is how you self-discover and inspire people by showing them your voice, and not just trying to recreate what you've heard from other people. Although there's a balance in that too, because we're all inspired by other things. So I like the image of when I started, I was like this like piece of Jim Croce and this piece of Bob Dylan and a piece of whoever. And those pieces were pretty big enough that you could recognize, oh, that's a piece of Bob Dylan. But then you're inspired by more and more things to the point where now it's like a mosaic, and oh wait, now it's a pixelated image of you, until it becomes more and more high definition, and you can almost not even recognize the first thing that you see is them and not all of their influences, so to speak. Where was I going with that?
Well, what I'm hearing you say is don't shy away from being inspired by other people, but also
Yeah.
hone it and make it yours.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Find your voice, but don't be afraid to be inspired too. You know.
What you said about like in your own way, even in a cubicle or whatever you're doing, it's kind of interesting if you watch like a show in the hotel, like a murder mystery kind of thing, and they're studying the handwriting. I love how something as simple as someone writing a letter looks like them. So it's like even if you're doing something that's maybe in an early stage of being very original to you, still will have your own touch on it. That's kind of a nice thing.
It's a dare to be you and be true. Is there any last thing you could say? I know that you're being the cook tonight, so you don't have a lot of time. So
Chicken's on.
Chicken's on. Is there anything that we haven't said that you might like to just share with everybody? And this is for all of you. Any last words? Anything about the trio coming up, or what you have planned creatively coming?
I'm happy to be here with you boys.
I'm happy to be with you boys too.
I'm having a great time, guys.
Okay, well, let's say there is what I think what we do balance is the joy of the journey with the ambition of wanting more than what we are, and I think they might sound conflicting, but in fact they're necessary and healthy to balance, and that is the hunger for us to keep making better music and building better shows, but also to stop and take a breath and be really thankful for where we are and the journey right here, in what we're doing. And I'm certainly thankful to be doing that with this trio, and feeling inspired by the fact that we are all feeling a purpose doing this.
Pretty good, dude.
That's all you got for the chopstick
I can't
here?
really. That was really good.
How
Seek
can
happiness and pleasure in every moment.
yes. Now, how can everyone find you when they want to hear you and when they want to find your tour dates and?
You can all the tour dates and whatnot are andrewduhon.com. That's kind of the default info hub. But social media is great too. Instagram, I believe it's Andrew Duhon Music. Facebook, Andrew Duhon Music is hacked right now, but I'll be getting it back soon, hopefully.
Do you guys have a YouTube channel or anything yet?
Yes, yeah, you can find videos on YouTube, Andrew Duhon Music, I'm sure.
And then one more thought. Oh, that's where they find out about tours. Yeah, you're on Spotify, and well, I know you're on Pandora. That's a whole other conversation someday I'd like to have about hopefully having the artists get more of the benefits of what everyone gets to enjoy from your works. But I will say that is how I first heard you, and thank goodness I got to find you that way.
That's right. New fans.
That's right. Thank you guys for taking the time.
Our pleasure.
Precious moments. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey friend, thank you for meeting with me and my guests. Go to tarawellness.com to join my newsletter and find out what else I'm offering. Please like and follow this podcast. Check out the Tara Gold Wellness video version on YouTube and follow me at Tara Gold Wellness on Instagram and TikTok. Let's keep meeting at home. Home is where the heart is.